Chapter 201. Raon stared into Cheryl's eyes. When you say matter, do you mean a mission? Yes. Cheryl nodded, as if it were obvious. Isn't the Heavenly Blade enough for it? The Heavenly Blade exists to defend the house and the head of house. Its role is different from the other armed organizations. He did hear from Judiel that the Heavenly Blade Swordsman protected every important base of the house. In fact, the swordsmen protecting the annex building were also from the Heavenly Blade. Moreover, 30% of the division is currently away because of recent missions. I don't have many people I can use right now. Cheryl's eyes calmed as she said she didn't have many swordsmen she could use. Despite what she said, she didn't look like she needed him that much. Raon felt like she wouldn't really care even if he declined the offer. Raon licked his lips. This could be an opportunity. Since the Heavenly Blade leader was a powerhouse at Grandmaster level, observing her would allow him to learn many things. But it might be dangerous, too. A mission where the Heavenly Blade leader had to move personally was bound to be an extraordinary matter. He might end up dying or lose all of the reputation that he'd gained if he failed. But I will gain even more if I succeed. He should be able to earn the Heavenly Blade leader's trust, as well as plenty of rewards, from properly completing the mission. There was a clear advantage and disadvantage in taking the mission. May I ask what kind of mission it is? Of course. I shall tell you. Cheryl raised her index finger. This is an escort mission. Escort? Then, is it about escorting the head of house? No. You are going to escort another important guest during this mission. Why is the Heavenly Blade in charge of that? Just as Cheryl had said a moment ago, the Heavenly Blade's role was to protect the house and the head of house, so it was strange for her to have a mission like that. That is because a debt has been called on. Debt? It's a debt the head of house left when he used to be a successor. Since he left it under the name Glenn Sieghart, the Heavenly Blade has to take care of it. She strained her eyes, telling him it was her duty. Can you explain a bit further? The daughter of a prestigious family is suffering from a mysterious disease. The priests, healers, and doctors have all given up on her. Our mission is to bring her to Retran, where the Ragged Saint is located. Ragged Saint. You're also acquainted with him, I believe. Yes. Raon nodded. The Ragged Saint Frederick was the one who visited him every year, from when he was a baby to when he was 5 years old, to check his condition and give him an elixir with fire attribute. That means the reason why you chose me was. It was partly because your last spar was impressive, but mostly, it was because you are acquainted with the Ragged Saint. I see. He finally understood why Cheryl visited him despite being pretty much unrelated to him. She only chose him because of the small connection he had with the Ragged Saint. It looks like you also understood why we have to bring her to him. Yes. It's because the saint doesn't choose his patients. The Ragged Saint Frederick wouldn't care even if a king called on him and wouldn't refuse a patient even if they were a slave. He healed everyone, regardless of whether they were an enemy or not, and the most important person to him was the patient in front of him. Even for a prestigious family, it was pretty much impossible to call for Frederick. I still need to thank him. The way he visited him every year to check on his condition and give him an elixir was really exceptional. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Raon owed him his life. That doesn't sound bad. The mission itself didn't sound dangerous, and the reward should be sufficient, as they involved the daughter of a prestigious family. And I want to see him, since it's been a long time. Actually, he was more interested in meeting with the Ragged Saint to express his gratitude than the mission itself. He also became curious about what the saint would tell him, since he almost finished overcoming the curse of frost. I'll do it. We will depart at daybreak in 2 days. You should bring 6 people with you, including the team leaders of the Light Wind. Are 6 people enough? Since we are also going to have the guards from that house, we don't need that many people. Having too many people will slow down the journey and complicate matters. We only need 6 of you. Understood. Cheryl nodded, expressing neither positive nor negative emotions. Can I ask you one thing? She was about to leave, but she turned back to stand in front of Raon. Please, go ahead. You were practicing making astral energy just now, right? Yes. Since he knew that Cheryl had been watching all along, he nodded honestly. Why did you give up and go back to basic training? You should be aware that you are right on the cusp of becoming a master, right? Of course, I do. However, I figured I don't need to be too focused on astral energy. Why you don't need to be focused? I realized after trying a few times that I can't achieve astral energy at this rate, even if I practice for 10 years. Raon stared at Heavenly Drive. What had appeared on the blade was nothing but concentrated aura, which couldn't be called martial arts. Something like that was bound to be meaningless, even if he practiced it for years. I figured I would naturally reach the area beyond as long as I slowly train my martial arts, just as I've always done. Seriously, you are. The Heavenly Blade leader frowned, gripping her left wrist tightly with her right hand. Sorry? No, nothing. She quickly hid her surprise and turned around. Since we are departing in the morning 2 days from now, make sure to be on time. May I ask a question as well? What is it? Which house is our escort target from? Yonan. Yonan. Yonan wasn't famous for their might, but they were a house that specialized in crafting, competing with Bakr in artifact crafting. Our mission is to escort the youngest daughter of that family to Retran, where a war is currently ongoing. The Heavenly Blade leader turned around and smiled slightly. Since the mission isn't really going to be difficult, you should rest assured. The Heavenly Blade leader went straight to the audience chamber and stood in front of Glenn. Raon accepted the mission. Did he accept immediately? Glenn tilted his head while smoothing his hand over his chin. He accepted after confirming the contents of the mission and giving it enough thought. How was the condition of his body? He's completely healed. His internal aura and body were both stable. I see. Glenn slightly nodded, satisfied with that answer. You should already be aware, but this mission isn't going to be smooth. Make them work hard for it. Of course. Cheryl nodded, her hand on her chest. Since I need to make my preparations as well, I'll take my leave. Wait. As she was about to turn back, Glenn raised his hand. What happened? You don't look well. Cheryl let out a small sigh and looked at Glenn. Raon. That boy isn't normal. What do you mean? Glenn raised his voice for once and suddenly stood up from his chair. When I went to visit him, Cheryl told him about Raon deciding to give up on practicing Astral Blade, instead returning to basic training. My common sense can't understand that. Astral energy was the dream and objective of all warriors, and the ones that were about to become masters were bound to chase after that brilliant light all day long. It's often referred to as being bewitched by astral energy. They normally train to achieve astral energy every day without listening to other people's advice, and only realized that it wasn't the correct path much later. Even she had wasted almost a whole year on that stupidity, but Raon gave up on forming astral energy after a few tries, returning to basic training. I had goosebumps. Raon's eyes were as calm as the lake in the middle of the night. She had unconsciously grabbed her wrist because she had goosebumps from his decision to return to the basics and forget about astral energy. A warrior who was about to become a master should be extremely desperate to achieve astral energy. It was her first time witnessing someone giving up on it so easily. I can only describe him as a monster. Just as Glenn had said, she had a feeling that Raon would surpass the Grandmaster wall before he reached 40. Ahem, was that what you meant? Glenn awkwardly cleared his throat and leaned back against the throne. I keep telling you that he's special. There's a limit to how special he can be. That's too excessive. I'm more amazed by his mind, rather than his talent in martial arts. Cheryl sighed deeply. Raon's first impression was average, but she got more surprised the more she saw him. It was her first time seeing a boy like him, despite having seen countless swordsmen in the past. It's regrettable, but Raon should be a master by the time we return, even if I don't do anything. He will achieve it with his own power. You don't need to do anything. Just show him the martial arts you've accumulated in various ways. If the Light Wind children don't realize it, that's their problem. Glenn emphasized that she was to help the Light Wind, rather than Raon. Understood. Cheryl nodded and stepped back. I'm leaving, then. she left the Lord's manor right after. A strange sound could be heard inside the Lord's manor, where Glenn was the only one left. It was as if he was trying to hold back his laughter. Raon went to the 5th training ground, where every Light Wind member was gathered. Since their individual training time was over, they were already gathered in the training ground. "Are you okay now?" Runan came running at him before anyone else. Her expression was blank, but her voice was filled with worry. "I'm completely healed." Raon gave her a small smile, and Runan nodded with an unnoticeable smile. "Also, thank you for the ice cream. It was great." Runan paid him a visit with beet ice cream while he was bedridden, and Wrath enjoyed it more than him because they were all mint chocolate flavored. "You've returned rather quickly." Dorian came up to him while eating snacks. It looked like he ate a lot while resting, since his cheeks had become plump. "You've gained weight. It looks like you are taking it easy." Easy? Not at all." He freaked out and shook his head. He said he took it easy. "No way, is he about to start it again? That can't be it. The spars are already over. There's no way. It can't be." The Light Wind members stepped away from him while trying to read his intentions, as they couldn't forget their hellish 3 months. "Have you already recovered? Are you an Iron Man or something? What a stupidly healthy body." Bayan and Martha's manner of speech was brusque, as if they were not welcoming him, but they had a small smile on their faces. Slam! As he was about to call those 3 over to tell them about the mission, the training ground's door burst open, and Rimmer entered wearing a golden coat. All kinds of jewels were dazzling on his fingers, wrist, and neck. "Ha!" Raon exclaimed. He'd never seen anyone who looked more like an upstart than him. "Squad leader, why are you?" Bayan's jaw dropped. "I had nowhere to spend my money because I had too much. That's why I started by buying some jewels." He violently shook his hands and fingers to show them off. "How annoying. Trample upon him and burn them all up." Wrath also growled in displeasure at him. Rimmer was truly a peculiar person. While he was pitiful when he didn't have any money, he looked irritating now that he had become rich. "Are you training again? Just take it easy. We are just trying to make a living here." Rimmer grinned, looking at the swordsman one after the other. His voice was softer than usual, probably because his mind had become more laid back. Though, that wasn't something a squad leader should be saying. "Oh, Raon. My lucky charm is here. Have you completely recovered?" "Yes." Nice. I've been praying for your fast recovery. But it looks like you've been so busy that you wouldn't have any time for prayers." He pointed at Rimmer's clothes and jewels with a cold smile. "I've been busy, and I prayed each time I spent money. I prayed for Raon's long life, since he allowed me to earn all the money." Long life. Raon fell speechless. He apparently went as far as praying for his long life instead of his fast recovery. "I have something to tell you." "I'm listening." "I'll grant you any wish." Rimmer immediately nodded. It looked like he would do anything for him except for giving away his money. A moment ago, Raon told him about the Heavenly Blade leader visiting him and asked him whether he could go on a mission with the team leaders and 2 additional members. The Heavenly Blade division leader? Of course. You should go. Rimmer clapped his hands. She knows all of the different characteristics of swordsmanship. I'm sure you will learn a lot from her if you follow her. He said it was a great opportunity for him, and he definitely should go. To begin with, I mentioned we will be reinforcing others a lot when I first made the squad. You should go. A mission with the Heavenly Blade leader? This is a great opportunity. Bayan shouted with joy once Rimmer gave his permission. The Heavenly Blade division leader? Poof. I heard she's the strongest swordswoman in the house, but let's see if she really deserves that title. Runan looked like she didn't really care as she tilted her head. On the other hand, Martha couldn't hide her trembling fingers, despite snorting on the outside. You have 4 people, including you. Who are the 2 other people you are going to bring? Rimmer asked, pointing at the remaining Light Wind members. For now, I'll take my pouch. Pouch? Ah, I mean Dorian. I think he needs to lose some weight. Raon smiled faintly while looking at Dorian. The pouch, or rather, Dorian, freaked out and dropped his snack. His plump cheeks were trembling. Then, what about the last person? Raon looked around at the rest of the Light Wind members. Most of them were rolling their eyes, pretending they couldn't hear them. It seemed they didn't really want to go. Crine, come forward. He bobbed his hand at the long-haired swordsman, who was hiding at the very back. Me? Why me? Crine's eyes widened so much they looked like they would explode. I saw during the spar that you had many complaints about me. Raon tapped his scabbard with a smile. Let's have a heart-to-heart talk during the mission. Ah. Crine fell back, remembering that he had called Raon a demon and a crazy bastard at the arena. I'm so dead. He closed his eyes while drooling from his mouth, as if he had already been beaten up. Since it should take some time, please take care of the squad members in the meantime. Raon told the other 5 members going on the mission the schedule, then bowed at Rimmer. Shouldn't I be saying that to you, since I'm the squad leader? Do you even have the intention of doing the job of a squad leader? Nope. He proudly shook his head. That's why I said that. You should stop gambling, too, since you've earned a lot now. I won't. Don't worry. Rimmer shook his 2 hands, gesturing that he took his hands away from gambling. Try learning a lot from Cheryl. It's not just her swordsmanship, but also her postures, footsteps, breathing techniques that are all worth learning, so steal everything from her. It had been a long time since the last time his voice was so serious. Okay. I'll tell you the magic word that you can use if there's ever a problem. A magic word? Yes. Rimmer continued with a grin. Tell Cheryl. 2 days later. Daybreak. Raon was holding Heavenly Drive with 2 hands in the annex building's open area. It was the middle posture, which was the most basic posture. Holding the hilt in front of his energy center, he pointed his blade forward and spread his pressure without any movement. Whir! Raon's energy wave flew as slowly as a cloud floating in the sky, engulfing the open area at an extremely slow pace. When approximately 10 minutes had passed, Raon's pressure had filled the entire open area, and the entire space vibrated with his breath. The space was in Raon's hand. Ha! Raon scattered his pressure, which was dominating the open area, in an instant. He caught his breath. You are so damn slow. I almost died from boredom. Wrath clicked his tongue at his pathetic performance. That's because this is a heavy technique. Are you trying to swallow the space with the heaviness? Yes. During the last fight against Garen. Who is Garen? You know, the man who fought against me recently. Ah, that insect? Considering Wrath couldn't even remember him despite it being a recent incident, Garen must have been mere riffraff to Wrath, even though he was still a master. Anyway, he used a quick sword that could block the space, and I figured heaviness would be better than speed to dominate the space. Garen's sword was certainly powerful and fast, but it had many flaws when it came to dominating the space. Raon felt like it would be better to make sure to engulf the entire space by sacrificing speed instead of forcibly increasing the speed. That's true, but I wonder when you will ever reach your enemy at your snail's pace. I should reach it one day, as long as I keep working hard. He understood the space sword to a certain extent, thanks to witnessing Garen's sword. Constant practice in the future should allow him to harmonize the heaviness and space dominance. Raon opened the status window for the last time before leaving. Status window. Name, Raon Zighart. Title, The Enlightened One. State, Curse of Frost, 2 strands. Trait, Wrath, Sloth, Ring of Fire, 6 stars, Water Resistance, 5 stars, Perception of the Snowflower, 4 stars, 10,000 Flames Cultivation, 4 stars, Glacier, 4 stars, Fire Resistance, 4 stars, Bleeding Curse, 1 star, Backstab, 3 stars, Ironwool, 3 stars, Adaptation to Ghastly Energy, 3 stars, Focus, 4 stars. Strength, 181. Agility, 175. Stamina, 176. Energy, 178. Perception, 199. Wrath, 25. Looking at the stats and the trait ranks, which had grown a lot since the last time he had looked at them, was enough to make him smile. I'll be there soon. He clenched his fist, resolving to change the title into something related to master and achieve harmony between heavy sword and space sword by the time he returned to the house. I'm curious. He was already filled with anticipation about how his swordsmanship would change once he became a master with those inhuman stats. I should get going. As Raon was about to leave the open area after picking up the backpack he had left on the side, Judiel approached him. I didn't manage to investigate much because I didn't have much time. She spoke as she handed over a thin booklet. What is this? It was information about the youngest daughter of the Yonan family in the Retran province, where the Ragged Saint was located. Ah! Raon opened the booklet. The name of the youngest daughter of the Yonan family was written in the most recognizable size. Enchia Yonan, a genius artifact crafter? It was written under her name that she was an excellent crafter even among the members of House Yonan. She's supposedly unmatched when it comes to accessory-type artifact crafting, despite being only in her mid-20s. Considering the fact the Central Martial Palace isn't aware of her case, her illness seems to be top secret. Exactly, Raon thought. Since the mission came to Cheryl directly from Glenn, he could guess there would be an extremely small number of people who knew about her illness. Since her name is rather famous in the central area, many people will target her once she leaves House Yonan. I agree. Despite what Cheryl said, escorting someone as talented as her couldn't possibly be a comfortable journey. That's even better. Something like a comfortable journey was nothing but a waste of time. He was ready to even walk down to hell if it meant he could advance faster and reach a higher place. After all, it was obvious that he would get stronger from hardships and difficulties. It will be interesting. Crimson flames shone in Raon's eyes. Chapter 202. Raon memorized everything written in Judiel's booklet before heading to the main entrance of Zieghart. Although it wasn't time for them to depart yet, Cheryl, 5 members of the Heavenly Blade, and the 5 members of Light Wind were already gathered. The Heavenly Blade Division. They were clearly different. Their pressure was as sharp as an excellent blade. Even though the Light Wind had grown during the most recent incident, they still looked like kids compared to them. Oh. Who is this? Isn't he the vice squad leader Raon? The middle-aged man standing next to Cheryl waved his hand at him. Despite his gentle appearance, his healthy body looked extremely strong. Is he the fellow who was supposed to accompany us? Yes. I'm honored to go on a mission with the swordsman who rewrote history. He giggled as he walked up to him and extended his hand. Your duel was breathtaking. I'm the Vice Division leader of Heavenly Blade, Ekin. He was mentioned in Judiel's list of personnels. He was one of the 2 Vice Division leaders of Heavenly Blade, and he was a power-oriented swordsman who used powerful swordsmanship and heavy swordsmanships to destroy his opponents. I'm Raon from the Light Wind Squad. Nice to meet you. Raon bowed while holding Ekin's hand. It's a mission, but let's have fun together. I'll be looking forward to it. He didn't say what exactly he was looking forward to. He simply tapped Raon's shoulder before returning to Cheryl's side. Why did you arrive so late? Everyone has been here for a while now. Bien and Martha frowned, scolding him for not coming earlier. I arrived earlier than the appointed time. Raon pointed at the sky, where the sun hadn't risen yet. You should come earlier. The Heavenly Blade members were waiting for you. I don't really care about them, but it's better to come earlier. Judging from their slightly red eyes, they must have had difficulties falling asleep in their anticipation. Yawn. Runan's eyes were also yawning. As for her, it wasn't because of anticipation. It was because she was simply not a morning person. See, can we really return alive? Dorian's chin was trembling as he fiddled with his belly pocket. He was apparently worried. Oh, of course we will. The Heavenly Blade is with us. Crime bit his lip, his face even paler than Dorian's. Don't worry. I'll make you return alive at all costs. Raon smiled, meeting the eyes of the 5 Light Wind members. Since they were his companions who he had spent a long time with, he resolved himself to protect them no matter what. MHM. I don't need it. I'll take care of myself. Runan gave a big nod, while Bayan awkwardly scratched his head and Martha suddenly turned her head away. Doesn't that at all costs sound scary to you? I know, right? Ah, what is he going to do this time? Krine and Dorian's gazes were filled with suspicion. They seemed to still hold a grudge against him for beating them up for 3 months straight. Gather up if you've finished greeting each other. Cheryl lightly tapped her coat and turned around, her eyes fiercely sparkling. We will leave right now. We won't rest until evening. The Heavenly Blades Vice Division leader, Ekin, came up to Cheryl, who was riding a horse. Division leader, can't we just get along with them? I took a liking to that fellow. He took a glance at Raon, who was following them from behind, and grinned. You like him? Yes. I was kinda deeply impressed when I saw his spar against Garen. Ekin clenched his fist and continued. You can't call yourself a warrior if your blood doesn't boil after witnessing him charging in an astral blade while only using an aura blade himself. I would even bring him to our division to make him stronger if I could. Make him stronger. Cheryl shook her head. He isn't the type of guy that someone else can make stronger. She acknowledged Ekin's abilities, but he wouldn't be able to handle Raon. Raon's talent and qualities wouldn't allow him to stay under someone else. He was like the aloof star of the northern sea that shines alone. How about just bringing him to our division? Shut up and do what I told you. But I don't like harassing people like a loser. What are you saying? You used to be a disciplinarian before becoming a vice division leader. Ekin was currently smiling like a gentleman, but he was originally the disciplinarian of the Heavenly Blade. He was very skilled at harassing others by nitpicking at them. And if he ends up challenging you because he couldn't bear it anymore, then make sure to work him over. That's not a problem, but did he do something wrong? No. Then why? Ekin tilted his head in bewilderment. Raon often tries to solve problems with violence. He's certainly strong for his age, but the world doesn't care about age. We need to teach him that another sky exists above the sky. Ah. So, it wasn't because you dislike him, but because you are worried about him. That he might end up dying in vain in the outside world. He grinned after looking back at Raon once again. I can accept that. I'll wholeheartedly harass him, since I'm also curious how he will react. When the sun began to set, Cheryl stopped at a small open area. We will stop for today. She got off her horse and disappeared after telling them she had something to do. We will check the surrounding area, so we'll leave the camp preparations to you. Ekin winked before entering the forest with the Heavenly Blade. Understood. Raon nodded, getting down from his horse. He put down his backpack and looked at the Light Wind members. We will start the preparations. Bian and Dorian, put up the tents. Runan and Krine, gather firewood. What about me? Martha walked up to him while pointing at herself with her finger. You will cook with me. Cook? Why would I? Since you are the only person here that can make human food. It was what he had learned during his trainee days, and Martha was the only person who was somewhat capable of cooking in Light Wind. You know how the food will turn out if we leave it to them. Raon pointed at Runan and Bayan, and Martha could only frown. All right. She nodded, then found a place at the center of the camping ground to dig into the ground in order to start a fire. Dorian, take out a pot, tableware, and the ingredients. Yes. Dorian immediately responded, taking out all kinds of tools, ingredients, and even the tableware from his belly pocket. Raon brought the tools and tableware and placed them next to Martha. Wrath secretly came up, licking his lips while watching Martha prepare the ingredients. The beef girl is pretty good at cooking compared to the others. You are well aware. It's because I lost my appetite from eating their food. Although Wrath only cared about the quantity, it was still difficult for him to bear with the Light Wind's cooking. What's up? There's a big problem. Big problem? Raon narrowed his eyes upon hearing Wrath's serious voice. When he grabbed the hilt of his sword and was about to spread his aura perception, Wrath continued. That beef is of poor quality. It doesn't have any marbling at all. Is that the big problem? He thought someone was attacking them or there was a huge incident, but Wrath casually mentioned the meat's marbling. He was filled with the urge to smack Wrath's head. Marbling is as important as life for beef. How could it not be the most important problem? Mr. Self-proclaimed Demon King, we aren't at a high-class restaurant right now. Ugh, it can't be helped. The King of Essence will put up with it this time. And I'm not self-proclaimed. Wrath started blabbering about something stupid along the lines of not accepting meat like that next time. Phew. Raon sighed. When he was about to start the fire, Wrath poked his head out again. What's up again? Are you planning on leaving them alone? He pointed at the forest where the heavenly blade entered a while ago. That's my plan for now. Raon looked at the direction Wrath pointed and slightly raised his chin. I'll just watch for now, and if I feel like it's no good. Raon slightly raised the corners of his lips. I'll ram them. Iken and the heavenly blade only returned to the camp after the meal and tents were ready, as if they conspired together. Have you already finished? Iken whistled, while looking at the tents that were neatly set up. I was going to help you, but that was really fast. It looks like you are rather experienced in outdoor missions. Ah, but this tent looks a bit nasty. There are some wrinkles, and this part is folded. It would have been better if you dug the hole a bit lower. This one's also slightly insufficient. The heavenly blade swordsman started to nitpick while examining the tents as soon as they returned. From tomorrow onward, you should make sure to fix what we pointed out. He's right. We are saying this for your sake, you know? It's better to use this opportunity to properly learn, so you can use it again later. They kept nitpicking useless things while pretending they were doing them some huge favor. Understood. Yes. Bayan and Krine visibly nodded, believing that they were really giving them advice. Division leader, please eat first. Iken brought the beef stew and bread to Cheryl before starting to eat. She was chewing well and eating extremely slowly, like a kid. It's not a bad taste despite the sloppy ingredients. Just like the saying, hunger is the best sauce. Wrath smiled slightly, satisfied with the beef stew. The food is also bad. It's salty. I know, right? There's too much seasoning. Did you pour the salt into it? The heavenly blade swordsmen were talking once again. They kept complaining and clicking their tongues, despite the stew being pretty good. Fuck. We will prepare decent food next time. Raon covered Martha's mouth when she immediately started swearing, then looked at Iken. Please do, since we are quite sensitive to the taste. He smiled gently, then started eating the stew again. Despite having said that the taste was strange, the heavenly blade swordsmen ate everything in their dishes. Thank you for the meal. Although the taste wasn't too great. Please use less seasoning tomorrow. They kept leaving hateful comments while bringing the empty dishes to the light wind. Arg. Arg. You. Stop. Raon tightly grabbed Martha's wrist as she started to go crazy. There's a clean valley over there. You can wash the dishes over there. As for us, we need some rest since we went pretty far away just now. Iken didn't even pretend to help them, he just took out cards from his chest and started playing poker with the other swordsmen. He was telling them that he wasn't going to help them with the cleanup either. Let's go. Raon watched them for a bit before heading to where the valley was supposed to be located with the Light Wind members. It was further than he thought, and the direction was also different from where they had pointed. Are you going to do nothing about them when they are trying to screw us over? Martha frowned, soaking the dishes in the valley's water. Martha, be careful of what you say. A heavenly blade swordsman is as strong as an average division team leader. Bayan sat next to her and shook his head. Team leader or whatever, are you telling me to put up with them when they are trying to make me angry? Since they went around to scout while we were in charge of cooking and setting up the tents, it's not exactly unfair for us. Scout? I bet they didn't even scout. There's nothing to scout here. The heavenly blade aren't losers like that. Martha seemed to be already disappointed, and Bayan seemed to still trust the heavenly blade. Fight after washing. Runan urged them to wash while yawning. She apparently wanted to go to sleep already. She's right. Wash the dishes first. Raon intruded between them and wiped the grease off the dish. Tisk. TCH. Bayan and Martha violently turned their heads away, then started wiping their dishes. When Raon returned from washing the dishes with the Light Wind members, Ekin and the Heavenly Blade Swordsman were still playing poker. Cheryl was nowhere to be seen, since she had already gone inside a tent. Good job. Ekin smiled, while waving the hand holding his cards. Let's sleep now, since we are leaving at daybreak tomorrow once again. He stood up while putting the cards in his inner pocket. You know the night watch is usually done by the newer people, right? I'll leave it to you for today. Ekin declared in a way that the Light Wind members couldn't argue with, then went inside his tent. Thank you for your work. We can sleep comfortably tonight. I can rest assured with the Light Wind Vice Squad leader keeping a night watch for us. The other Heavenly Blade Swordsmen also hurriedly went inside their tents before anyone could call for them. Ugh. I somehow feel like we are in charge of all menial labor. I know, right? Bun, Dorian, and Krine stared at the tents with a bad taste in their mouths. It's not just menial labor, they are treating us as servants. You idiots. Runan was silently arranging the dishes, and Martha ground her teeth. You should go to sleep. I'll take care of the night watch. Raon sat in front of the bonfire and closed his eyes. Are you doing it alone, Vice Squad leader? Dorian moved next to him and asked. Yes, since I have something to think about. You should go to sleep. Raon was planning to analyze the heavy sword while keeping a night watch. I don't want to. I don't want to. Bayan and Martha shook their heads at the same time. We don't need a consideration like that. Let's keep a night watch for 2 hours with groups of 2. It's okay if you don't. I'm not okay. Martha frowned, then sat next to him. You should go to sleep, since I'll wake you up in 2 hours. She frowned with her hands crossed. Make sure to wake us up. I'll sleep first, then. MHM. Runan, Ben, Dorian, and Krine went inside their tents after telling her to wake them up. Hey. Martha watched the burning bonfire before turning her head. You are aware that they are annoying us on purpose, right? Only idiots wouldn't notice. Are you planning to leave them alone? Weren't you happy at first because we were on a mission with the Heavenly Blade? Raon chuckled. I didn't know they were such narrow-minded bastards. Martha blushed and shook her head. Stop smiling, just tell me. Are you going to do anything about them? If you aren't, then I will. 3 days. Raon raised 3 fingers. If they keep behaving the same way for 3 days, then I'll take care of them. Can you even take care of them? There's nothing we can do if they use their position or might to crush you. Don't worry. Raon's red eyes turned serious. I have a method to thoroughly crush them. 3 days passed. Naturally, nothing changed. The Heavenly Blade were now requesting a bunch of stuff even during lunch and break times, and Bayan, Dorian, and Krine had to work their asses off. And of course, the worst part was during the camp preparation. From the tent installation, dinner preparation, horse management, dishwashing, cleaning up, and even night watch, everything was the Light Wind's job. Honestly, the Heavenly Blade didn't do anything except for moving while carrying their bags. Moreover, it wasn't salty enough today. Aren't you underestimating the seasoning? It's even more sad because it's slightly off every day. Let's be a little bit more careful tomorrow, okay? Just a little bit. The Heavenly Blade Swordsmen kept grating on their nerves by constantly complaining about food, cleaning, tents, everything. The most annoying part was that they were actually complaining after emptying all the dishes, when they shouldn't be eating if they didn't like the food. Let's start again today. Who was first? They didn't even pretend to consider helping with the dishwashing, and immediately started playing poker. Those motherfuckers. They are blatantly provoking us. Martha was about to explode, and a vein was bulging on Bowen's forehead. You guys should go without me today. Raon stood up, leaving the dirty dishes behind. What about the vice squad leader? Dorian tilted his head while picking up the dishes. I have something to do. Something to do? My patience has reached its limit. A savage look appeared in Raon's eyes as he watched Ekin distribute the cards. The vice squad leader. No. He's right. They are the Heavenly Blade. Dorian and Bayan grabbed his arms and shook their heads. The Heavenly Blade leader won't overlook it if you beat them up. He's right. Please stop causing problems. You are making us suffer. Why are you already assuming that the Heavenly Blade will get beaten up? Ha! Martha commented, and Bayan and Dorian flinched. They realized they just casually assumed that the Heavenly Blade would get beaten up instead of Raon. Because he always beats up everyone. And I've never seen him lose before. Bayan and Dorian scratched their heads in the exact same way. You've got a lot of trust in me. Raon chuckled, then tapped their shoulders. Your worries aren't going to come true, so just wait. He waved his hand to everyone, then went to Cheryl, who was sitting on a tree. It's a bit unexpected. The Heavenly Blade leader looked beneath her coldly. What do you mean? I thought the Heavenly Blade leader would do something when she saw the division members playing poker. I don't care what my members do in their free time. As long as they do their job, whether they play poker or play roulette is none of my business. Which means, you won't mind if I do something about them. Indeed. The Heavenly Blade leader nodded. A blue light shone in her eyes, as if she'd been waiting for him to say that. All right. Raon nodded, then turned around. He managed to get her confirmation that she wouldn't do anything. It was now time to ram them. A faint smile appeared on the Heavenly Blade Division leader's face as she watched Raon's back. It's finally starting. She was expecting Raon to visit Ekin and challenge him for a spar because he couldn't take it anymore. And he will lose. Ekin's prowess was incomparable to Garen. No matter how many miracles Raon was capable of creating, there was no way he could reach him. He needs to experience defeat. She was the one who personally instructed the Heavenly Blade to annoy and make fun of the Light Wind. It was her plan to teach Raon how scary the world was, since he tended to use violence to solve most of his problems, and create an opportunity for him to rise to master level. Vice Division Leader. She could see Raon calling out to Ekin, standing in front of him. She was about to go down in order to be the referee for the spar that was about to happen when she heard something completely unexpected. Arm wrestle with me. Eek? Cheryl's surprised voice resounded throughout the darkness. Raon smiled faintly when he heard Cheryl's shout from behind him while watching Ekin's jaw drop in front of him. I won't let it happen as you planned. Ekin was definitely stronger than him at the moment. Cheryl must have been hoping that he would challenge Ekin to a fight just to be defeated, but there was no way he would choose a method that would make him lose, since he was already perfectly aware of their thoughts. Did you just say arm wrestling? Yes. I'm asking you again. You said arm wrestling, not spar, right? Yes. Let's set conditions upon victory for each side and have an arm wrestling match without any aura. I'm sorry, but I'm a master. And I use swordsmanship focused on power. I already know that. Physical strength increases drastically upon becoming a master. It's impossible for an expert to win against me even if I don't use aura. Ekin clenched his fist to flex his strength, and thick blood vessels became visible on his hand. Then I guess the Vice Division leader has an advantage. It's not just an advantage. It's obvious that I'll win. Then let's do it. Raon raised his hand, urging him to compete. Ha, seriously? Ekin exclaimed while looking at Raon's arm, which did look sturdy, but couldn't be called thick by any means. You are more likely to win against me in a sword fight than arm wrestling, but I still want to bet on this one. Fine. Since you are so eager to lose, there's no reason for me to refuse. He nodded. It looked like his pride was slightly hurt. Tell me your conditions. If I win, the Heavenly Blade shall take care of all the chores that we've been doing until the end of the mission. What if you lose? We will continue all the chores, and we will also carry all the bags that the Heavenly Blade have. The condition upon your defeat is a lot weaker than the other, but whatever. I'm going to win anyway. He easily accepted the conditions, believing that there was no way he would lose. Our Raon, Vice Squad Leader. Bayan and Crime came running at him with shouts of horror. Suriken uses a heavy sword and a powerful sword. He's right. He doesn't lose to anyone when it comes to strength. They whispered at him in both ears and tried to advise him to cancel the match. I'll give you one last chance in consideration for your teammates. You should withdraw now. I'm not interested in withdrawing. Raon resolutely shook his head, then extended his arm. I heard you were confident in your strength, but I guess I need to teach you how vast the world is. Iken grabbed his hand with a grin on his face. A tremendous amount of strength could be felt in Raon's hand, as his boulder-like arm muscles buffed up. What's up? Do you regret it now? No. Raon smiled, his eyes completely unwavering. You are the one who was about to feel regret. His strength was already at master level when he was at Haben Castle. He couldn't even tell how strong he was anymore. Was my strength stat 181? Raon put strength into his hand with a cold smile. Chapter 203. Iken slowly gathered his strength with a grin on his face. He's so confident. It's gotta be because he's so young. He's just a child at this point. Raon just waged everything on the outcome of a competition that even a 3-year-old child would say was obvious. Just like Cheryl said, Raon was conceited. This method is a bit unexpected, but I'll teach him a proper lesson. He hadn't gotten Cheryl's permission yet, but it should be fine. After all, he just needed to break Raon's spirits. Can I start? Iken jerked his chin, strengthening his grip. Yes, of course. His grip was strong enough to make decent swordsman scream, but Raon's casual expression hadn't changed at all. So, he's gotta be somewhat strong. I guess that's why he challenged me in arm wrestling. There were some swordsmen who were unexpectedly strong despite their skinny appearances. Iken guessed that Raon was one of them and must have possessed muscles optimized for battle. It's useless though. Iken smiled, then gestured at a heavenly blade swordsman next to him with his eyes. Are you both ready? The heavenly blade swordsman asked while shaking Raon and Iken's hands, which were clasped. I am. Yes. Let's begin. As soon as it started, Iken strengthened his arm fully. He was planning to just overwhelm him with power, without even trying to push Raon's arm onto the table. Rumble. The clash of power in their hands was making the boulder supporting their arms tremble violently. What's happening? Although he was using a significant amount of strength, Raon's expression didn't change in the slightest. His hand was also holding on without getting crushed. This is a bit strange. He was already using over 70% of his full power. A pretty powerful swordsman should have already freaked out and shook off his grip, yet Raon's face looked so relaxed that he almost looked like he was drinking tea. Vice Division Leader, you are trying right now, aren't you? Raon lowered his eyebrows slightly, asking him whether or not he was properly trying. Ha! A vein popped on Iken's forehead. I was going to go easy on him. He gave up the thought of going easy on him because he liked his fighting spirit. That arrogance needed to be fixed for sure. Of course not. The real deal is only getting started. Iken strengthened his entire arm to push Raon back. Rumble. Even the ground connected to the boulder started to vibrate from the monstrous power. This is going to hurt. He aimed to crush Raon by exploding all of the strength that his body could muster. However, what's happening? Iken's lips trembled. Why isn't he being pushed back? Why was he not falling? Raon's arm didn't get pushed back, instead, it remained completely immobile, like a 1,000-year-old tree. He looked like a huge wall, no, an endless mountain standing in front of him. Arg! He gritted his teeth and raised his head to look at Raon. Ah! His hair stood on end when he met Raon's red eyes, which were as calm as a lake in the middle of the night. Although he was using his full power, Raon's expression didn't change in the slightest. Raon tilted his head, as if he found it strange. Let me ask you again. Are you sure you are trying right now? How did you? Even his voice was calm. It was impossible. There was no way anyone could be so strong. It's my turn now. I'm starting. As soon as he said that, a tremendous amount of power struck him. He felt like a tidal wave that could reach the end of the sky in height had just slapped him. Coo! It wasn't just his arm's strength. He unconsciously groaned from the powerful grip that was crushing his fingers. Wah! He bit his lips until they bled to strengthen his arm, but willpower wasn't enough to fight back against Raon's strength. T-Troll? No, even an ogre is weaker than this. The monstrous strength that even monsters themselves couldn't compare to was making his shoulder fall apart. It was so strong that he almost unconsciously used his aura. No! I'll never do that. Even if he lost, he couldn't win by cheating. He returned his surging aura back to his energy center. Wah! Iken screamed, mustering all his remaining strength. He wanted to win at all costs because of his position as the Heavenly Blades Vice Division leader and the way he looked down on Raon before the competition. Boom! The boulder finally collapsed from the tremendous strength between the two. Once the rising dust was cleared away, Iken's hand could be seen, knocked to the ground. Coo! A small groan slipped from Iken. The extreme pain felt like all his bones had shattered in his hand, but he couldn't even show it outside because of the embarrassment. He raised his head to look at Raon. He was dusting off his hand without even sweating in the slightest. Monster. That was the only word he could think of. That single word was all that remained in his head. You are weaker than I thought. Raon licked his lips. Those muscles. He pointed at Iken's buffed muscles on his right arm. Did you make them to show off? Show off? Did you just call me and my perfectly trained muscles a show-off? Iken's chin was trembling. Calling people who trained to get stronger show-offs was the worst kind of insult. Left hand. Iken pulled back his shattered right hand, then extended his left hand. I'm left-handed. We need a rematch with our left hands. Instead of Iken, who was gritting his teeth while extending his left hand, Raon looked at Cheryl, who was standing behind him. So, the Heavenly Blade leader isn't completely expressionless. Cheryl's narrow eyes looked almost as round as the full moon. How? She looked like she had lost half of her soul. She apparently didn't even consider the possibility of Iken's loss. Gasp. Did the Vice Division leader lose just now? And in a competition of strength? What is happening? The Heavenly Blade swordsman's chins were trembling because of the unimaginable outcome. It felt great to see them shut their mouths, since they had been nitpicking them all day long. Whoa! Raon. Vice Squad Leader. Shit. We are free from the chores. On the other hand, the Light Wind swordsmen hugged each other and cheered for the victory that they didn't have much hope for. Let's do it again with the left hand. I'm telling you, I'm left-handed. Iken blared at the rejoicing Light Wind before extending his left hand. It looked like his pride was hurt because his muscles had been insulted. Why would I? Raon tilted his head with a smile. What? I'm already the winner, so there's no need to continue. That's. Shouldn't you and the other Heavenly Blade members be deciding who will be in charge of the chores? Bags. Iken pointed at the bags placed next to the tent. Just like you suggested, we will carry your bags if I lose again this time. We don't need that. Dorian. Yes. Raon snapped his fingers, and Dorian went to the tent while brimming with happiness. He juggled with the swordsman's bags before putting them inside his belly pocket one by one, as if he were performing a show. You saw him. We don't need you to carry our bags, since we have the best quartermaster. Iken's left arm trembled upon witnessing that scene. However, Raon pointed at Iken's sword around his waist. I'll do the rematch if you teach us the heavy sword and powerful sword every evening. Teach? Yes. I don't want a sloppy lesson, so if you promise to properly teach us the true true meaning of the heavy sword and powerful sword, then I'll accept a match using our left hands. I'm perfectly fine with that. Iken looked like he would even risk his life if it meant he could get a rematch. Then you will go back to doing the chores if I win, and you will apologize to the muscles that you insulted. He seriously asked him to apologize to his muscles. The pride of a muscle lover was more impressive than he thought. Alright, I accept. Good. Let's do it. Iken rested on his belly and extended his left arm. Are we doing it on the ground? I couldn't properly use my strength just now because the boulder was tilted in my direction. Since my sleeve can't bother me anymore, it's going to be different this time. Left-handed, tilted boulder, and even his fluttering sleeve. He really had a lot of excuses. All right. Raon smiled lightly and took Iken's hand. What an idiot. Wrath frowned while looking at Iken. Do you truly believe a muscled pig like you can defeat the King of Essence's elegant and elastic power? He called Iken pathetic while tapping on his head. Start the match. Uriah. As soon as it started, Iken exploded all his power in his body to push Raon back. Apparently, he was really left-handed, since he was a lot stronger than the last time. It's pointless though. Since Raon had the system, it didn't matter whether he was using his right or left hand. Both of his hands could use the 181 points of strength, and he could even use his King of Destruction title if he thought about destroying something. No matter how strong Iken was, he couldn't force his arm down because he was just a human being. Since I'm getting bored, I'll end this quickly. What? Despite the fact that Iken's left hand was trembling from all the strength he put in, Raon easily put down his hand. Slum. Although he didn't use any aura to push it down, a large crater was created on the ground. Ah. Iken's left hand was buried in the crater. This is impossible. He was drooling from his mouth. He was apparently too shocked from the consecutive defeats. How could he muster so much power from that thin arm? How could he be so strong when he has nothing but small muscles? Unlike your fashion muscles, my muscles are the concentrated muscles meant for battle. They are also called the CMB. Fashion muscle? My muscles are fashion muscles. Because he already lost 2 times, he couldn't argue against the fashion muscles comment and buried his head in the ground. Did he lose again? That wasn't even close. It was too one-sided. The Heavenly Blade Swordsman's eyes turned blank in despair as they sank to the ground. That's crazy. Cheryl had also lost her usual cool expression. Her lips were trembling, and her face had turned pale. Well then, let's clean up. Raon stood up and shook off the dirt on his clothes and hands. Managing the horses, dishwashing, cooking, tent installation, etc. Those are the chores that the Light Wind has been doing that the Heavenly Blade are going to be in charge from now on, and we are going to get a swordsmanship lesson from the Vice Division leader Iken every evening. Correct? No one responded. Iken, Cheryl, and the Heavenly Blade members alike, they were just standing there blankly, unable to recover from the shock. We are free from the chores. Whoa! We can now take it easy. I'll show them how much I can nitpick. The Light Wind Swordsman burst into laughter in anticipation of repaying all the nitpicking they had received. This is why I didn't want to do this from the beginning. Iken stood up with an extreme frown on his face. He shook his dirty left arm towards Cheryl. I told you I was bad at picking on people like a kid. He quickly signaled the dazing Heavenly Blade Swordsman with his eyes. That's right. It was so difficult to find fault in them because they were so good at everything. It was hard to nitpick them as ordered. They started sighing, saying that the Light Wind's camp preparation was perfect to the point that there was nothing to criticize. Did you just say you nitpicked us as ordered? What do you mean? Martha and Bayan tilted their heads. You must have realized it, but our criticisms were unreasonable. We weren't trying to annoy you guys, we were just ordered to do so. We wanted to do it in moderation, but you were too patient. The Heavenly Blade Swordsmen awkwardly scratched their heads. No way. Did the Heavenly Blade Division leader actually order you to do that? Every Light Wind member's eyes were focused on the Heavenly Blade leader. Ha! Cheryl sighed and nodded. She looked rather enervated. Yes. I ordered it. Why? Since the light wind has been excellent in both missions and sparring, I wanted to take you down a peg or two so that you wouldn't become arrogant. However, it looks like I didn't need to worry about you, considering how you solved this issue. I'm sorry. She closed her eyes and sincerely apologized. We are sorry as well. You did a good job. It was difficult to find fault in you. Yes, we had to act more and more childish because of that. You don't look like newbies at all. I'm sure you will achieve great things. The Heavenly Blade Swordsman also bowed in apology and showered them with compliments. I see. I did find it strange. Everything was for our sake. The Light Wind members nodded, tricked by Ekin and the Heavenly Blade's plot. I understand if you did it for our sake. Raon also smiled while looking at Cheryl and the Heavenly Blade. Thank you. Yes, you are as open-minded as you are strong. As expected of the students of Sir Rimmer. However, when the Heavenly Blade Swordsmen were about to brush it off, Raon raised his hand. Since the deal is a different story, you have to do your work. The reason everyone started to apologize, from Ekin to the Heavenly Blade leader, was obvious. They wanted to get their leadership positions back without having to do all of the chores. Do you take me for an idiot? They must have hoped to share the chores equally by appealing to their hearts, but apologies and the bet were different stories. The chores were still theirs to do. You can see them, right? Raon pointed at the dishes piled up behind him. You should wash those dishes first and fix the night watch order after that. Ah. Ekin and the Heavenly Blade members turned pale. They didn't expect him to remain so cold-hearted despite their apology. Oomph, what a bunch of idiots. Wrath raised his chin while looking at the Heavenly Blade. Did you really believe this guy would overlook it when he is like a venomous snake? He will bite you and won't release you until the very end. He was right. There was no way Raon would miss such a hard-earned opportunity to train. Since you promised, you shall do the chores. Cheryl let out a small sigh, looking at the Heavenly Blade Swordsman. You will be in charge of the chores until the end of the mission. Start with the dishwashing for now. Why are you talking as if it's someone else's matter? Raon tilted his head while looking at Cheryl. What? Remember what happened when we started this bet? What did I say? What do you mean? I said, if I win, the Heavenly Blade shall take care of all the chores that we've been doing until the end of the mission. And I meant the Heavenly Blade. Ah. Cheryl's face turned pale upon hearing that. You didn't say anything when I suggested the bet earlier, so I'm sure you aren't going to deny it now, right? Since you are the Heavenly Blade Division leader. That's. Her face turned red from her panic. A Grandmaster being unable to manage her expression was a refreshing sight to behold. Wow. That's crazy. Seriously. Did you plan all this from the beginning? Is he really human? The Light Wind and the Heavenly Blade Swordsman exclaimed at once at the sight of Raon dominating the situation. I just made a vow. I'm never going to offend him ever again. I'd rather die than make him my enemy. You are slow. I already made that vow at Haven Castle. Crine and Dorian shook their heads. Huh, are you even keeping her on a leash? You really are nasty. Even in Devildom, there's no one worse than you. Wrath was also shocked at seeing how Cheryl ended up. Well now, we don't have much time. Raon clapped his hands to gather everyone's attention. The Heavenly Blade Division leader and the members should go wash dishes, and please gather some firewood on the way back. The Vice Division leader needs to teach us the heavy sword now, so let's move quickly. Raon grinned as he looked at the speechless Heavenly Blade in Light Wind. 6 people added to my list of doormats. Since the Heavenly Blade went to discuss the matter, Raon was sitting in front of the bonfire along with Light Wind members. Are you sure this is okay? I'm happy about not having to work, but is it really alright to annoy the Heavenly Blade? I am a bit afraid of the consequences. Bun, Dorian, and Crine nervously licked their lips, looking at the Heavenly Blade behind them. Just think about the lessons. Do you prefer getting pushed around like pushovers? Why are you so scared when you are wielding a sword? Raon looked happy in anticipation for the lesson, and Martha was smiling since she managed to vent her frustration. Don't worry. They aren't the type of people to hold a grudge over something like this. Judging from the Heavenly Blade's actions and speech so far, and their leader's personality, they weren't going to harm them just because of an incident like that. It was okay for them to stay relaxed and enjoy themselves. They wouldn't, right? Dorian nodded and took out a snack from his belly pocket. Sigh, I feel like I caught some stomach disease recently. Me, too. Bayan and Krine frowned, grasping their stomachs. But it does feel nice to not have to do the chores. Night watch is the best part for me. I really hate having to wake up in the middle of sleeping. As for me, I hated washing the dishes the most. Oh, yeah. Now that you mentioned, the dishwashing was the worst. As Raon was listening to the light wind's chatter with a smile on his face, footsteps could be heard from behind him. Step. It sounded like someone was coming to teach them, but the small sound couldn't be Eakin's footsteps. Once the footsteps stopped in front of him, he raised his head. And the Heavenly Blade leader was standing there, her purple hair fluttering in the wind. I'll be in charge of the swordsmanship lesson instead of the Vice Division leader Eakin. She was gently looking down on the Light Wind members with her arms crossed. What? The Heavenly Blade leader is going to teach us? Wow. WHY? The Light Wind members dropped their jaws while looking at the Heavenly Blade leader. It went according to my plan. Raon chuckled while looking at her. He was hoping that would happen when he made her do the chores and bet the swordsmanship lesson in his wager with Eakin, and it went exactly as he expected. Stop your bullshit. You couldn't have possibly thought this far unless you are a god. Wrath stuttered. He apparently couldn't believe him. It's true. Raon chuckled, looking at the Heavenly Blade leader, who was slightly blushing. Because I figured even a grandmaster would hate to wash dishes. Chapter 204. Do you have a problem with that? The Heavenly Blade leader looked around at Raon and the Light Wind members coldly. I don't. Of course, I don't. Bayan and Martha shouted at the same time. They were both steaming from their noses from excitement at the thought of learning swordsmanship from a grandmaster. Me, neither. It was a rare sight that even Raon clenched her fist while sticking her head out. How about you? Cheryl looked at Raon, who didn't say anything. I'm also fine with it. Raon nodded his head with a small smile on his face. Since the Heavenly Blade leader had mastered all sorts of different principles of swordsmanship as a warrior, learning from her was a huge opportunity. Although the bet only involved the heavy sword and powerful sword, I'll also explain other swordsmanships until we reach Halcyonin, as a token of apology for misjudging you. Thank you. Thank you. Raon and every member of Light Wind bowed to her. We will start with the heavy sword today. Cheryl immediately started the lesson without any further delay or useless chatter. Heavy swords basics involve placing your body's weight on your sword in aura. Even the basic moves such as vertical slashes, horizontal slashes, and stabs can become a lot more powerful by including your weight. Mixing in the principles of the powerful sword on top of that will double their power. However, focusing on strength and power means that speed will suffer. That is why you should be careful when you mix the principles of different swordsmanships. She taught them about the basics of the heavy sword and the principles of swordsmanship with a plain voice. Her simple and precise explanation was very easy to understand. What do you think will happen if you keep practicing the heavy sword? Cheryl picked up the small dagger that she had placed on the ground. It will become too heavy for the opponent to face. It will be strong enough to defeat any opponent in a single strike. That only happens when you are fighting against weaker opponents. Let's assume that you practiced a heavy sword, and your opponent uses a quick sword at the same level as you. Cheryl shook her head at Dorian and Krine's answers. How can a slow, heavy sword catch up to a swordsman who moves as fast as the wind? I think it would be difficult. You won't be able to hit your opponent. Your footwork will be slower as well. You have to endure until you can get one powerful strike in. The swordsmen tilted their heads, saying that it would be a disadvantageous fight. That's what normally happens. However, it's a different story once you become strong enough. A heavy swordsman doesn't lose at all to a quick swordsman. The gray energy emerging from Cheryl's body engulfed the dagger's blade. Rumble. The moment the gray aura was imbued in the dagger, a tremendous amount of pressure weighed down on the entire space. Coo. Gasp. What's happening? The light-wind swordsmen fell to their knees, unable to endure the pressure. Coo. Raon frowned. He felt like two huge pillars were crushing his shoulders. So, this is the heavy sword demonstrated by a grandmaster. Although she wasn't using astral energy, the heaviness and space domination were on a different dimension from Garen's sword. It was so heavy that it was difficult to stay up, even with his physical abilities. This is the mid-level heavy sword. It doesn't simply incorporate heaviness on the blade, it can weigh down the space itself. Cheryl slowly raised her dagger and the pressure decreased, which allowed them to raise themselves back up. Then, what do you think you need to do in order to incorporate the blade and the space itself with heaviness? How about filling the blade with aura? No, you should use the aura you spread around you. The light-wind swordsmen told their opinions, but Cheryl didn't nod to their answers. The mental image. Raon's lips parted after he gave it enough thought. You have to create a mental image of incorporating heaviness to your blade. Correct. Cheryl gave him a small nod, then lowered her dagger once again. Wham! The pressure crushing their bodies was at least twice as strong as before. Coo! Ack! Krine and Dorian were the first ones to start screaming, and Bayan, Martha, and Runan also fell to the ground while groaning. Ugh! Raon was the only one still standing. What I incorporated into my blade earlier was a log, and the one just now was a boulder. Can you tell the difference? They are both goddamn heavy. Martha responded while grinding her teeth. You might get that impression, but didn't you feel that the earlier one weighed down on one part of your body, while this one is pressing on your entire body? Ah. Raon nodded. Just as Cheryl said, while the earlier one only pressed down on his shoulders, the current one was crushing his whole body. You don't achieve a heavy sword just by thinking about incorporating heaviness into your blade. You need to be immersed in the form to a point where you can use your sword while sleeping and figure out what you want to achieve with that swordsmanship. Cheryl raised her dagger once again. The more details your mental image has, the stronger the effect will be. If you want to advance further and higher, then you should allocate time each day to practice drawing mental images. Yes. Understood. Every member of the Light Wind responded loud and clear, since it was a priceless lesson. We will stop here for today. She put down the dagger and returned to her tent. Wow, it's so easy to understand when she beats it into my body. It's pretty difficult, but I think I get what she means. I know, right? A grandmaster's teaching is different, after all. The Light Wind swordsmen were all smiling, impressed by Cheryl's lesson. This confirms that mental image is the important part. Raon's eyes were shining as he looked at the dagger Cheryl left behind. Wrath, Glenn, Rimmer, and Cheryl. Every single powerhouse placed great importance on the mental image. He could guess that the might accumulated with mental image became the decisive factor in battles the stronger they got. The King of Essence already told you that you just need to practice your mental image, and the rest will follow. You are right. The fact that the King of Dormat's wrath kept repeating the same thing made him decide to allocate more time into mental image training in the future. My nose is tickling. Nose? You bastard, you must have been thinking some rude things about the King of Essence. You are just imagining things. Raon smiled awkwardly. Half of you can remove the tents, and the other half can take care of the cooking. You should decide who does what. As soon as Raon woke up at daybreak, he woke up the Heavenly Blade and made them work. Ugh. It wasn't a dream. What a state we are in. It's all because of the Vice Division leader. I couldn't have possibly known that he was such a monster. Ekin and the Heavenly Blade members realized that what happened the day before wasn't a dream and started moving to do their jobs. Cheryl joined the tent removal team. She apparently wasn't confident in cooking. Shouldn't we be helping them as well? Yes, let's. Stop. Raon stopped the Light Wind members, who were about to act up. You are going to train while the Heavenly Blade does the chores. What? Are you telling us to train right now? And right here? Buden's eyes widened. Yes. You should start training, since the Heavenly Blade members sacrificed themselves to give us time. You are the weakest ones in this group, after all. Cool. I can't argue against that. Krine and Dorian frowned while scratching their necks. Raon closed his eyes after confirming that the Light Wind members warmed themselves up and started their respective training. Heaviness. He thought about the heavy sword Cheryl had shown him the day before. He wanted to master that sword, the one that was capable of crushing the body and even the soul. I think I'm going to need a different mental image for that. Raon was walking up the stairs to become stronger, step by step, during the short time where people were preparing food and removing the tents. Ha! Ekin exclaimed once he saw the Light Winds training. Did he seriously order them to train right now? Is he really 17 years old? He thought Raon would laugh at them or start picking on them, but he ordered the swordsman to train instead. He was an unexpectable guy. Division leader, they are training right now instead of playing around in their free time. It looks like we really did something unnecessary. I know. Cheryl scowled while looking at Raon's meditation. I really did something pointless. She really liked that Raon made them train instead of wasting the time they got from the Heavenly Blade doing the chores. But please don't tell me we are really going to continue doing the chores until the end of the mission. I don't think we will. Since they are smart kids, they will stop at some point. Cheryl said, and the Heavenly Blade swordsman, including Ekin, nodded in agreement. It was only natural that, no matter how crazy Raon was, he would split the work half and half at some point. However, we are going to rest here for today. The Heavenly Blade will scout, cook, and install the tents now. Raon kept making the Heavenly Blade do all of the chores for 4 days straight, which was 1 day longer than the duration the Heavenly Blade harassed the Light Wind. Please gather lots of firewood as well, since the temperature gets pretty low at daybreak. We also need some clubs to use for our training. He ordered the Heavenly Blade around like servants without any hesitation at all. Please put in a lot of meat today. That's right. Yesterday's food was delicious, but it didn't have enough meat. The amount of meat is the most important part of a stew. The Light Wind members that felt sorry for them in the beginning were now blatantly making various requests. I want it cool. See cool. Ekin bit his lip while looking at Runan. The girl from House Sullian was really making it difficult for him by asking for a cool meal every single time. You should start training now. Yes. All right. As soon as Raon gave the order, the Light Wind members spread around to start doing the training they needed. Ekin groaned. Since the Light Wind members were training instead of playing around, he couldn't even criticize them. It was literally a checkmate, with no way to escape. Vice Division Leader. Do we really have to continue this? Give up already. It can't be helped anymore. Ekin shook his head. He looked like he wanted to apologize for causing it all. I'll buy you a big treat once we return. Vice Division Leader, there wasn't enough food for the horses. Go gather some dry grass. Raon pointed at the horses that were tied to the nearby trees. Ha! But there are the grasses we brought. They don't like them because they got stale. But it's difficult to find dry grass right now because it rained yesterday. The grass shouldn't have gotten wet deep inside the forest. The smile he showed before returning was telling him that he should figure it out himself. He's a demon. Ekin clattered his teeth. It was true that they started at first, but he couldn't believe that Raon was making them work so much in return. Division Leader. He looked at Cheryl, but she quickly turned her head away, pretending she wasn't listening. Coo. We're screwed. Ekin slammed the ground with his hands, which had turned black from starting the fire. We picked on the wrong opponent. Raon's journey couldn't be any more comfortable until he reached Dembel City, where House Yonan was located. Since it was a warm region, the buildings were located at elevated places in order order to avoid the geothermal heat and harmful insects. The division leader should take back the lead from here on out. Raon stepped back with a faint smile on his face. Does that mean that the condition is now over? Of course not. Cheryl showed her anticipation, but Raon simply shook his head. Just as promised, you will continue doing the chores until we return to the house after the mission. There was no way he would release the doormats that kept the night watch for them, cooked for them, and even gave them lessons. He was planning to thoroughly use them until the end. Damn it! He's a real demon. I'm never going on a mission with the light wind ever again. Ekin and the Heavenly Blade shook their heads, saying that they never wanted to get involved with Raon ever again. Ha! Cheryl sighed, then headed to the house that House Yonan was located in, which was in the central area of Dembel City. She apparently had been there before, since she quickly managed to find the way. Wow! It's really big. I'm surprised that this is a house of crafters. In fact, they didn't even need to find the way, since House Yonan was occupying enough land to be a quarter of Dembel City. This is pretty much a castle. The walls were as high as castle walls, and it was impossible to see inside, as if the entire house were wrapped in a black cloth. It looked like it was an artifacts effect. What is your identity and business? The guards standing in front of the main entrance grasped their spears while cautiously looking at them. We came from Zieghart. Cheryl stepped forward and showed them the plate with Zieghart's symbol. Ah! Zieghart. The guards hurriedly bowed and stepped aside upon confirming the plate, and the gate opened right after. They could apparently tell what was happening from the inside. Scree! The huge iron gate opened up and they could see the interior. The way workshops with different shapes were lined up on both sides was befitting their reputation as a house of artifact artisans. Welcome! A middle-aged man wearing a suit walked up to them through the open gate and bowed. My name is Arun, the General Administrator of Yonan. I'm Cheryl from the Heavenly Blade Division. I'm well acquainted with the Heavenly Blade leader's widespread name. I'm honored to meet you. Befitting his title of General Administrator of a prestigious family, he politely greeted them without panicking upon hearing Cheryl's name. Please, follow me. The head of house is waiting for you. He extended his hand to point in front of them. Let's go. Everyone followed Arun into the 10-story building located at the center of House Yonan. The magical device inside the building allowed them to reach the 10th floor without walking up the stairs. That door. Raon narrowed his eyes upon seeing the only door on the 10th floor. The door looked like it was made of iron, wood, or paper at the same time. It must be an artifact as well. He could guess that those who were allowed to enter could open the door as if it were a piece of paper, while it would turn to sturdy steel against those who didn't have permission. Please, enter. Arun pointed ahead of him, and the two doors opened up automatically. The delicate light spread out to reveal the interior, giving the impression that the room had just been illuminated. Countless artifacts with unknown functions were lying all around the place, to the point where there was no gap to set foot in, and a middle-aged woman was sitting on the sofa in the middle with her red hair flowing over her left shoulder. Her masculine appearance underlined her cool beauty. Michelle Yonan. That middle-aged woman was the head of House Yonan, and the great artisan, who was regarded as one of the top 3 artifact crafters. Greeting the head of house. Cheryl was the first one to bow. She was showing courtesy to the head of another house. It's been a while, Heavenly Blade Division leader. Michelle Yonan returned the greeting with a smile. Please, come this way. Cheryl skillfully avoided stepping on the artifacts covering the ground, then sat on the sofa on the other side of Michelle. Thank you for coming all the way here. It is simply our duty. Cheryl responded, looking at the tablet Michelle was holding in her hand. Glenn's name was written on the tablet with a red sword symbol. That must have been the debt Glenn was supposed to have left behind. How has Vice Division Leader Ekin been doing? I'm fine, thank you. You've become even more beautiful and younger. Despite his muscles, Ekin casually said that embarrassing line. Hoo-hoo, that's not true. And is he? Michelle waved her hand before looking at Raon. I'm Raon, the vice leader of the Light Wind Squad. I'm pleased to meet the master of Yonan. Raon bowed politely. Ah. You are the one who defeated the seventh apostle. Michelle's eyes widened. The rumor about the seventh apostle's defeat had apparently spread all the way to Yonan. I was just lucky. You are really handsome. What? Raon's lips parted in surprise at his appearance being complimented instead of his might. I heard that you were amazingly powerful, but I didn't expect you to be so handsome. You are different from any jewel. She exclaimed while watching Raon's face from different angles. Her eyes looked like she was admiring a piece of art, rather than looking at a person's face. Dear head of house, let's talk about the work, since we don't have much time. Ah, I'm sorry. It's an occupational habit. Cheryl reproached, and Michelle apologized while tapping on her cheek. I have a daughter named Enchia. Michelle slowly opened her mouth while pushing Glenn's tablet to the center of the table. She has a bright and energetic personality because she was loved by everyone as the youngest daughter, and she was also extremely talented at artifact crafting. She was pretty much my greatest masterpiece, since I even considered passing my position onto her. She honestly revealed the circumstances around her successor despite facing people from Zighart, who were outsiders. However, a problem started to occur in her body in the middle of last year. What would that problem be? At first, she said that one of her knuckles hurt, as if a hot needle were pricking it. I thought she must have gotten a splinter in her finger, but that wasn't the case. Since the healer and doctor both said there were no problems, I thought it was just a temporary issue. However, Michelle bit her lip. 1 month later, it was her finger that hurt, and another month later, it was her entire hand. Did it transfer from a knuckle from the entire hand? Yes. And the pain became more and more intense, and she felt like she was being stabbed by a heated blade instead of a needle. Oh no. Ha! Since the heavenly blade and the light wind were all aware of how intense that pain was, everyone frowned. You can guess what happened afterward, but it kept getting worse. From the hand to the wrist, forearm, arm, left hand, and right leg. More than half of her body is currently in pain right now. Michelle's face turned black from the terror. Her hand was trembling as if she was telling them that she wanted to suffer instead of her child. Even the famous priests and doctors haven't managed to figure out how to heal her, let alone determine the cause. She's even refusing treatment and just wants to die now because her seizures are happening more and more often, and her pain is getting worse. Raon swallowed nervously. If she really was feeling a stabbing pain in more than half of her body, then that must be worse than death itself. And it would be difficult to examine her. It was understandable that she would refuse treatment, since the pain would become worse if somebody else touched her during it. But this feels familiar for some reason. A stabbing pain going from needle to blade, and the affected part spreading to the entire body was bothering him. That's why we decided to anchor our hope on the Ragged Saint. However, you couldn't contact him. Correct. Michelle nodded, grasping her heart. Naturally. The patients in front of his eyes were the highest priority for the Ragged Saint Frederick. He wouldn't go to House Yonan to save Michelle's daughter unless all of the patients in his region disappeared. That's why I decided to use this tablet. I want you to bring my daughter to the Ragged Saint to save her. All right. We accept the mission. Cheryl nodded after looking at the tablet that had Glenn's name engraved on it. Shall we leave immediately, then? I'm sorry to ask this, but can you leave in a few days? Is there a reason for it? I got the news that the healer Timas is currently in a village nearby, so I'd like you to leave after he examines her. Timas. Raon clenched his fist behind his back. It's been a long time since the last time I heard his dirty name. Timas was a healer from House Robert, famous throughout the continent for his skill, and one of Darius's confidants, who were aware of his dark side. I think Enchia will most likely refuse treatment from Sir Timas, but I'm going to force her if I need to. Michelle's face was completely dry. Her complexion didn't look good at all, between the worries for her daughter and anxiety for the treatment. This smells fishy. Robert had always liked using the method of creating a debt or killing the head of a competent house to subjugate them. Moreover, he wouldn't send out Timas for no reason, since he was an important vassal for him. Excuse me. Raon raised his hand for the first time. Can I meet your daughter? Do you want to meet Enshia? Yes. I think we need to check the current condition and problem in order to make appropriate preparations for when we move out. He's right. I think we need to see her to devise a plan. Cheryl also nodded in agreement. She's really sensitive right now because she's been sick for over a year. Recently, she even refuses to allow anyone to feel her pulse or check her condition. That's okay. We just want to see her. Ha! Raon asked again, and Michelle sighed in resignation and stood up. You might be all right. She said something strange while looking at Raon's face. Raon followed Michelle to the deepest room on the 9th floor. They opened the pink door and entered, and they could see a young woman lying on a large bed. Just like Michelle, she was a beautiful woman, but her dry lips and pale skin were evidence of her bad condition. Moreover, her left hand, which was sticking out of the blanket, was swollen and red, like heated glass. She's in serious condition. Raon frowned. If she was in that condition without any external injuries, she must have been going through a pain that no ordinary person would have been able to endure. Cheryl seemed to also have realized that fact, since she didn't look so good. There's not enough energy inside her. We need to be careful when we move. We've prepared the carriage. It's excellent at absorbing shock, so that she wouldn't be affected during. While they were talking about the carriage, Raon walked towards Enshia. If Darius is behind this. As Raon gathered his aura slightly in order to examine her. Enshia opened her eyes, letting out a small groan. Her orange eyes looked around at the people inside the room before stopping on Raon. Enshia. Don't be surprised. They are. While Michelle was approaching her in surprise, something no one could have imagined came from Enshia's lips. He's so freaking handsome. Chapter 205. On the central road of Dembel City, leading to House Yonan, a middle-aged man in white clothes that was holding a cane was walking up the road with a young man carrying a sword around his waist. Although they were talking between them, their voices and footsteps couldn't be heard at all. They've finally contacted us. The young man smiled while looking at the long wall of House Yonan. I would have lost my patience and burned all of that trash if they took any longer. Despite his gentle appearance, the old man brushed dust off his hand while saying scary things. You saw how those worms that don't even know their places kept visiting me when they are better off dead. I would have poisoned the well or something if it weren't for his order. The young man was also saying nasty things with his soft mouth. Why not? We can do that after the mission. You know my hobby. Of course, I do. It's to plant an even more painful disease in patients that you've personally saved. I'm only continuing this job because of that. The old man smiled while lifting his sleeve. Our job should go well, right? It would become troublesome if they suddenly decided to visit Frederick. That's why we shall feed them. Feed them? The young man tilted his head in confusion. No one has managed to improve Enshia Yonan's condition so far. And of course, they wouldn't, since it's neither a disease nor a curse. Indeed. We are the only ones who know its existence. What do you think will happen if we visit them and relieve her pain when they are about to visit that madman Frederick as a last resort? They will go crazy. They will offer everything they have in order to save her, by any means necessary. That's right. They will abandon their plan of visiting Frederick and will offer everything to us. The old man nodded. An evil energy was glowing on top of his slightly raised lips. We just need to take Yonan's money and artifacts while pretending to treat that young woman and plant some moles. It's not that hard. So, that's why you said we will feed them. Yes. We will slowly tame them, just like feeding a dog. Don't forget about constantly giving them hope. It was such a nasty story, but he said it casually, with a gentle smile. We can't let the treatment end. Just 1 year. In a single year, half of Yonan will have become ours. And getting the rest afterwards will be a piece of cake. On top of mastering medicine and sorcery, you are even excellent at scheming. You have my highest respect, Master. It's going to be your job in the future, so make sure to learn it properly. Yes. By the time they finished their conversation, they had reached the entrance of House Yonan. "Whom?" The old man erased the energy barrier blocking the sound, then walked up to the guard with a gentle smile on his face. "I'm the healer Timas, who came to examine Lady Enchia's condition." Raon was dumbfounded as he stared at Enchia. What's wrong with her? Did she just say I'm handsome out of nowhere? He could confidently say that he was capable of analyzing most people's psyches, but he couldn't read the thoughts of the woman who woke up just then. "You are so damn perfect." Enchia's lips parted as she stared at Raon with half-unfocused eyes. "Ha? What is going on? Raon is indeed handsome, but... what?" Cheryl and the other swordsmen also dropped their jaws at the unexpected situation. "Ah, I'm sorry." Michelle gasped and lowered her head. "It's okay. But can you explain to me a little?" Raon scratched his cheek. He was aware that his appearance wasn't too bad, but he was flustered because it was his first time someone other than Sylvia and Helen had called him handsome while flat out staring at him. "Do you know about the eye for beauty?" Michelle turned around, leaving Enchia, who couldn't take her eyes off of Raon, behind. "Eye for beauty? It means discernment in finding beautiful things. Because House Yonin has been a house of artists and artisans for generations, our members are born with better eye for beauty than other people." She pointed at the jewels decorating different parts of the room. Although the jewels were only refined, without any further processing, they were still shining beautifully. "Ah. That's why all of Enchia's artifacts were extremely popular. On the other hand, she sometimes just stares at jewels without sleeping or eating for days, all because her eye for beauty is too potent." Apparently, Michelle wasn't just boasting when she mentioned Enchia's amazing abilities earlier. "Which means, right now, she is seeing you as a jewel. Moreover, she thinks that you are a perfect jewel that has already been refined by an artisa." "I'm not just thinking it. He is a jewel." Enchia interrupted before Michelle could even finish her sentence. "It's crazy. The hair color, the gaze, the sharp nose. How are you so perfect in every way?" Rayon's face kept reddening as she spoke. "This is difficult." He would have rather fought the seventh apostle again. He felt uncomfortable hearing her complimenting his appearance. "A great eye for beauty?" Wrath popped out of the bracelet and raised his chin. "Give me your body for a moment. What's up with you now?" The King of Essence wants to try showing that human my own face. She will definitely faint, unable to face the absolute beauty of it. Then, she will follow the King of Essence for the rest of her life. "Ah, I see." Raon ignored him, since his bragging was bound to be endless. "Hey! Listen. I'm telling you to listen." Wrath swayed his arms, and Raon forced him away before looking at Enchia. "You are the best. You are so freaking perfect. Ack!" She was staring at Raon as if she were bewitched by his beauty, but she suddenly screamed and frowned. "Who are those people?" Enchia turned her head, her eyes calming a little. That question should have been the first thing she said, but she was only asking it now. It must have been true that she sometimes stared at jewels all day long. "They are the people from Zighart who came to escort you to Retran." Michelle opened her mouth before Raon could speak. "Zighart." Enchia's blue eyes sparkled as she looked at Raon and no one else. "I know that the treatment makes you suffer, but let's try 2 last times. Mom won't ask you anymore after that." Michelle met Enchia's eyes with her hands gathered together. "Does that mean that he is going to escort me?" Enchia raised her hand with difficulty and pointed at Raon. "Yes. You will go with him and the other Zighart swordsman." Michelle nodded, pointing at the swordsman behind her. "Ah. They are also." Enchia's eyes sparkled upon seeing Cheryl, Bian, Runan, and Martha. The eye for beauty apparently appreciated people with excellent appearance regardless of gender. However, her eyes fixated on Raon once again after she examined everyone. "What is your name, Sir Swordsman?" "My name is Raon Zighart." "Raon, your name is also awesome." Enchia murmured Raon's name with bewitched eyes. "Is Sir Raon also going to Retran with me?" "Yes." "Mom, I'm going. I'll get treated over there." Unlike what Michelle said before, Enchia immediately shouted that she would go without refusing the treatment. Really? Yes. But I need him to come with me. Enchia raised her hand with difficulty and pointed at Raon. I guess this is better than refusing. Raon sighed slightly. He was embarrassed, but he figured it would be easier to approach her with her liking him so much. Huh? It's so sad to be ugly. I know, right? I suddenly want to kill myself. Is the river water warm nowadays? The swordsman behind them sighed as they smoothed their hands down their faces. I'm sorry I keep staring at you. I'm getting ideas from watching Sir Raon. Enchia's red swollen right hand was trembling. Ideas? I couldn't enter the workshop nor work for over a year after I became like this. I gave up on everything and was just waiting for my death, but I got the urge to create a perfect and more beautiful masterpiece from watching Sir Raon's face. She said she couldn't stay still because she kept getting ideas for what she wanted to make. I see. As expected, she wasn't seeing him as a man. She was appreciating him as a piece of art. Though, that made him even more embarrassed. It went easier than I thought. Cheryl laughed bitterly while looking at Raon and Enchia. I agree. I somewhat expected this to happen, but I didn't think she would like him so much. Michelle also smiled gladly, watching Enchia regain her hope. Enchia, won't you receive just one more treatment before leaving to meet the Ragged Saint? Sir Timas? Yes. He's also a famous doctor. Since I've already asked him, he shall be here soon. But I want to leave right away. Enchia shook her head, just staring at Raon. Raon frowned slightly. The timing for Timas's appearance is just too perfect. Since Timas was one of Darius Roberts' confidants, he never moved around without reason. There was definitely another reason behind his appearance. Lady Enchia. Raon approached Enchia. Yes? Yes. Can I try feeling your pulse? Pulse? Of course, you can. Enchia immediately extended her arm, as if there were no issues with it whatsoever. Do you even know anything about medicine? Cheryl came up to him and narrowed her eyes. A little. From whom? I heard the theory from Sir Frederick when I was small, and I learned later from the squad leader when I was a trainee. Frederick is understandable, but Rimmer? Are you telling me that the slob actually taught you medicine? Yes, it just happened. I guess he really treasures you. Cheryl withdrew with a frown once Raon said Rimmer taught him. Amazing Rimmer pass. He just said it because he witnessed Rimmer quickly stabilizing injured people's conditions, but it worked. Using the Rimmer pass was always the correct answer. Please excuse me. Sure. Raon gently held Enchia's wrist as she extended her entire arm. Her skin was so hot that it was unbelievable that it belonged to a human being. Ack. Although he held her gently, as if he were grabbing a fragile piece of cloth, Enchia still groaned, her shoulders trembling. She was apparently feeling extreme pain just from being touched by someone else. Wow. Despite the situation, Enchia didn't take her eyes off from Raon's face, her cheeks turning red. Your face is so crazy. Judging from her admiring tone of voice, she would never turn her head away even if she died. Whir. Raon sliced with the 10,000 Flames cultivation's aura as thinly as possible. He flew the aura into Enchia's mana circuit while trying to avoid affecting her as much as possible. Ag. Although he was controlling the 10,000 Flames cultivation as slowly as possible, Enchia still seemed to feel pain since she closed her eyes and bit her lips. I need to finish this as quickly as possible. Raon frowned, examining Enchia's condition. It's serious. Her mana circuit was narrower than a hair, and her energy center seemed to have already melted down. Her condition was the worst, to the point where it was difficult to understand how she had managed to survive. He could understand why she wanted to give up on her life. Narrowed mana circuit and a continuous pain of getting stabbed by a blade. Everything's similar. After examining Enchia's overall body, he focused on her upper body. Her body temperature was even higher, and the mana circuit was so narrow that the passage was almost non-existent. Her trembling intensified. He needed to control his aura more quickly and precisely. He focused as much as possible as he controlled his aura in a way that kept him from touching her mana circuit at all, examining her head. Maybe it's different. Darius Robert researched how to plant sorcery or a bug around a human brain. He thought that would have been what he did again this time, but he couldn't feel anything there. Maybe I was oversensitive. Since that cursed project, the Hellworm, was already scrapped. Hellworm was a project to research a worm that could cause lasting pain to a human, but it was scrapped because the worm took away the host's life in an instant instead of giving continuous pain. But just in case, Raon recovered the 10,000 flames cultivation and inserted Glacier's coldness inside her. The high-purity coldness started to cool down Enchia's heated mana circuit. Ag! Enchia groaned even more loudly. She was also feeling pain from the coldness. Raon bit his lips as he felt her trembling wrist, then went up to her upper body once again. The moment coldness passed through the neck and was going to the head, an extremely tiny movement was detected from her brain. It's him! Raon clenched his fist. He could feel a movement inside Enchia's head, even smaller than a millet grain. Judging from the intense heat, it must have been the bug that was once named Hellworm. Did the research end up succeeding? As soon as the worm showed itself, the heat spreading throughout her body intensified. That was the reason behind Enchia's current condition. Seriously, those crazy bastards. He ground his teeth. Darius and Timas gave up on being humans, and even planted a worm inside a human brain like madmen. The outrage almost made him lose control of his aura's flow for a moment. Let's see. Eliminating it right away would be the best outcome. When he was calmly trying to enter even deeper. Kaya! Enchia screamed, unable to endure the pain anymore. The Hellworm stimulated her to give her more extreme pain the moment Raon's coldness tried to attack it. Where did it go? And at the same time, its presence had disappeared. It looked like it hid away from the coldness, but it was an instinctive movement rather than mechanical. It seemed to have an ego, unlike the Rageworm. It's dangerous. Enchia's condition was too bad for him to force his way in to find and remove it. She would end up dying from the pain. The saint should be able to improve her condition. Since he could even affect his own body, which had the curse of frost, the medicine and acupuncture of the ragged Saint Frederick should be able to recover Enchia's condition. We still need to go, I guess. Raon nodded, then released Enchia's wrist. I'm sorry for making it painful. No, I feel a lot better now. Enchia's lips were trembling as she fidgeted. The pain has subsided a lot. Just like she said, the heat from her swollen arm and leg had decreased slightly. Really? Michelle gasped, coming up to her to grab her hand. Yes, I'm better now. Enchia. Tears welled up in Michelle's eyes as she admitted that it had been a long time since the last time she held her daughter's hands. It's hiding. Enchia's condition must have gotten better because the Hellworm was hiding away from Glacier's coldness. How did you do that? Cheryl came up next to him and asked. There's something spreading the heat around her head. Really? Seriously? Michelle and Enchia briskly turned their heads to face him, and the other swordsman's eyes also widened in surprise. Yes, but it's impossible to treat her in her current condition. Why is that? Her body won't endure the treatment because she has been sick for too long. Then, what should we? Michelle came to him with trembling hands. Hope had finally appeared in front of her, and her hands were trying to seize that visible hope by any means necessary. We have to visit the Ragged Saint at Retran. I can heal her once Sir Frederick improves Lady Enchia's condition. Since Raon managed to figure out the cause, he could definitely treat her once her body's condition was improved. Is that really possible? Yes. Cheryl asked again, and Raon immediately nodded. I'll go. Enchia raised her hand. I want to leave now. Michelle bit her lip, looking at Enchia and on the verge of tears. All right, then I'll get the carriage. As she was about to order the servant to prepare the carriage. Knock knock. The general administrator, Arun, entered along with a knocking sound. What's the matter? Sir Timas, who you've been waiting for, has arrived. Ah! Michelle clapped her hands. Sir Raon, wouldn't Sir Tima's be enough? I heard he doesn't lose to Sir Frederick in medicine. No, we need Sir Frederick to guarantee her treatment. Since Tima's was pretty much the perpetrator behind it, letting him treat Enchia was the same as setting a fox loose in a henhouse. Much of the house's property would be transferred to Darius as a result. I see. It can't be helped then. We should make him leave. No. Raon shook his head. Let's see what he does, since I'm curious what kind of judgment he is going to make. It was better to call Tima's in order to double-check the incident and in order to kill him. Are you okay with that? It's fine, but... Raon raised his finger to cover his mouth. Please keep the fact that I can heal Lady Enchia a secret until he gives his diagnosis. Tima's entered Enchia's room on the 9th floor, guided by Yonan's general administrator Arun. There were 12 swordsmen, as well as Michelle and Enchia inside. Sieghart? Tima's narrowed his eyes upon noticing the burning sword emblem on the uniforms. They must have been called to bring her to that Frederick bastard. He immediately understood the situation and smiled faintly towards the swordsman. I'm sorry, but there's nothing for you to do here. Since he would improve Enchia's condition, they would end up returning to the barren land in the north without achieving anything. You've arrived. Michelle, who was standing next to Enchia's bed, came up to him with a smile. I'm sorry for being late. I was treating some patients. It's no problem, I'm thankful enough that you are here now. Can I see the patient, then? Tima's pointed at Enchia, pretending that he only thought about the patient, with no other intentions behind it. Of course. Enchia, are you okay with that? Yes. Enchia pretended to consider before nodding. Just what I thought. Tima's licked his lips. Considering the red, swollen skin and the fact that checking her pulse was the extent of the treatment she could get because of the pain, the hellworm must have been doing its job properly. Please excuse me. He grabbed Enchia's wrist and examined her for a while. Narrowed mana circuit, body trembling from the pain, broken energy center, and... Tima's confirmed the hellworm's presence in her head before nodding. Although it was moving slightly slowly, it did its job properly. You should stay asleep for a bit. He made the hellworm fall asleep before releasing Enchia's wrist. How are you now? And my pain has decreased. Enchia fiercely nodded while clenching her fist. Really? Yes. Michelle also came up to her in surprise and grabbed her. How did you do that? Heat has gathered in Lady Enchia's body. Tima's continued bitterly. It looks like other people haven't managed to find it because it is located in an extremely dangerous place. Where is that? It's in her upper body. It's not good. He frowned and licked his lips. Then how about the treatment? Fortunately, I think I can treat her, since it's related to what I'm currently researching. Really? Yes. But since I've never seen these symptoms before, I think I'll need quite a lot of time and money. It's also because the patient is in really bad condition. Tima's narrowed his eyes in the middle of his speech. What's this? Everyone in Yonan was aware of the fact that Enchia was Michelle's most precious daughter. He just said he could heal her treasure, yet her reaction was too calm. This is strange. She should have been saying that she would give him everything: money, people, or artifacts. Anyway, I can definitely heal her, although it's going to take a long time. How long would it take? I can't tell the exact time right now, because it's my first time seeing these symptoms, as I mentioned before. He couldn't tell her the exact time, since he needed to take over the house step by step. Mom, I want to be treated by Sir Raon instead. Treated? Tima's eyes widened as she said she would get treated. The swordsman who came from Sieghart also said that he could treat her symptom. Michelle pointed at a handsome blonde man standing behind her. How is that possible? Some people knew about the rageworm, but the only people who could remove the hellworm were himself and a few people from House Robert. It was impossible for a greenhorn like him to treat her. It's nonsense. How could a swordsman treat her when he's not even a healer? Sir Raon also managed to decrease my pain, just like you did. Enchia stared at Raon with bewitched eyes. Since you said it would take a long time, I'll get treated by Sir Raon. She decisively raised her hand without even looking at Tima's. Raon? Now that I think about it. He remembered Darius ordering people to investigate Raon Sieghart before. Since there was no way two people would be using the same name in the same house, he must have been that Raon. Do you know what those symptoms are? I don't. Then how can you even treat her? But you also said you didn't know about those symptoms. But I. Tima's lips trembled, since he ended up falling into his own trap. Moreover, I'm not trying to treat her on my own. I'm going to bring Lady Enchia to Retran and treat her with Sir Frederick. It might be dangerous. She's already in so much pain when she's not moving, so the pain will be unbearable once you start moving. You don't need to worry about that. I realized how to reduce the pain. Raon responded so calmly that it was almost irritating. But you are a swordsman, not a healer. I'm also a healer. I learned medicine from Sir Frederick when I was small, and from my teacher later on. Did you really learn medicine from the saint? Then, who is your teacher? Sir Rimmer is my teacher. Sieghart's Sword of Light. Timar frowned. He was aware of the fact that the stupid elf was well versed in sundry techniques, but he didn't know that he had even learned medicine. No matter how excellent they are, I don't think you would have inherited all of their abilities. You will bring disaster if you try to treat a patient with sloppy medicinal skills. Sir Tima's mentioned earlier that the heat was gathered in her upper body, right? I did. And I even perfectly located the heat. What? Head. Raon pointed at his head with a faint smile. Ugh. Tima's bit his lip, his benevolent smile shattering. Head of house. He realized he wouldn't be able to convince Raon and called for Michelle. Please trust me. I've dedicated my entire life to medicine. If you move Lady Enchia right now, you will get into big trouble before reaching the Ragged Saint. That's. Since it concerns me and it's about my life, I'll be the one to decide. While Michelle bit her lips in consideration, Enchia raised her hand. I'm going to follow Sir Raon. What? He furiously shouted after hearing the unexpected answer. He's a swordsman, and I'm a healer that has dedicated his entire life to medicine. I'm one of the 10 best doctors on the continent. Why did you choose that swordsman when your life's on the line? The reason is simple. Enchia smiled, as if there was only one possible answer. Because he is handsome. Why, you're crazy. You might die if he makes a mistake in his treatment or if he does it too late. How can you say such a strange thing? I'm fine with dying if that means I'll be with that face. Coo. A bunch of veins appeared on Tima's forehead.